Because I, a good-for-nothing born into an imperial family, possessed the skill to steal curses, I became one of the heroes who fought back. Fighting against the destruction caused by the world's erosion, a member of Generation Z, hailed by the world as the ones who would end all of humanity's suffering. So many people sacrificed themselves for the growth of this generation. Abella, who couldn't use magic due to a curse that stole her voice, begged me to take that curse away, only to strike me from behind while I was looking for painkillers. Beside her was Mary Diana, the world's strongest spear user. That girl recklessly absorbed hundreds of curses to exchange them for their power. Then she'd come to me to take them away. And then there was the Imperial Princess, who called her own savior trash right after I had offered up my own eyes. That wench targeted me at the academy just because I was from another kingdom. I endured and did all of those things for them just because they were the ones who would save this world. And I was just the useless failure of my family, but him, Arthur, the one I trusted to lead our generation into battle, was the first one to give up when humanity fell. Just because his skill was regression, he had watched me die tens of thousands of times. This time, he let me know it. And my name is Class Oneham. My skill is to steal curses. And skills. I stole that bastard's regression ability, right before the god of death brought down the final blow upon this world. Not long after, Class, whose eyes were still tightly shut, suddenly frowned. His breathing became labored. Class's eyes shot open. He raised his hand towards the chandelier. Letting out a piercing scream, Class was stunned for a moment by the scene before him. He noticed the familiar door over there. Class glanced around the room, a sense of familiarity washing over him. He touched his face and uttered, "Isn't this my childhood home?" Class Vanham had returned to his 13-year-old self, regression complete. He yelled in a panic, "I'm young again?" A world suffering from erosion, a phenomenon where the world is encroached upon by another dimension. When world erosion occurs, the environment changes, but worse, invasive creatures from that other world pour in. Among them, those who take human form are called world invaders. The people scattered in panic when they saw them screaming loudly, "Invaders! Run! Inform the Night Brigade!" The ones who stood up against the world's erosion, one of them slowly raised his staff forward. A voice rang out, "Begin the battle!" That group charged forward in unison. They were called the Azuz Generation. At that time, Class raised his hand, which was overflowing with purple spiritual energy. And so, with a body that could only seal curses, Class Vanham joined the Azuz Generation. However, he was treated as nothing more than a vessel for curses, and in the end, was betrayed by his own comrades. Class Vanham, what a pathetic life. Back in the present, his jaw dropped. Seeing his child's body, Class couldn't help but let out a terrified, piercing scream. He looked around the magnificent room, bewildered. This is my room? Just a moment ago, it was the dead of a freezing winter, and now it's a summer so hot I'm sweating. If I'm in the Xinbei Manor where I lived as a child, does that mean the last card I played, using Black Hat on Arthur, succeeded in stealing his regression skill? Class ran a hand through his hair and gave a hollow laugh. He glanced to the side, wondering, but how did I manage to steal it anyway? People usually think the Black Hat skill can be used freely without limits, but it has one fatal flaw. Black Hat can only steal a target's item if the user unlocks it. That lock is created based on the value the owner places on the item. Even a roadside pebble, if the owner considers it a treasure, will have its difficulty skyrocket. The unlocking condition was to transfer 99% of the world's wealth to the owner. For something like a unique skill that the opponent treasured so dearly, the difficulty of stealing it should have been astronomical. Class rubbed his chin, thinking, the greater the value, the more conditions there are, and the harder they are to fulfill. Arthur, what was going through your head? Class knew Black Hat had activated back then, but he didn't see a lock. Class muttered, for there to be no lock at all like that. Does that mean he really wanted to throw this skill away? Wanting to give up the regression skill? He recalled the past. Come to think of it, Arthur sometimes had an utterly exhausted look on his face. He acted as if he were just grudgingly completing a mission, a world that was constantly heading towards destruction like that. If Arthur had to repeat that all by himself, over and over again, he must have lost his sanity by now, Class mused. Did Arthur get drunk on his own tragedy? Acting like he was saving the world all by himself? Perhaps to Arthur, regression was no different from a curse. That's why he wanted the other three to inherit the memories and regress with them, while leaving himself out of it. The fact that I was able to steal the skill with Black Hat means that the Arthur I knew has lost his regression ability, and he was left behind in a dying world to perish under the meteor shower of the Azure Night of Death. That means Arthur is dead. Back in the present, Class stood up, his tone cold. I took what you most wanted to throw away. You should be thanking me. Thinking this? He let out a cynical smirk. Class recalled his miserable past, thinking, you always excluded only me, as if shouldering curses was something anyone could do. You never once paid attention to the comrades suffering in the shadows. Back then, for class, living was perhaps worse than death. Tears were always on the verge of falling. He gave a triumphant, mocking laugh. Serves you right, you piece of trash. The scene changes to the hallway of the Gizinbei Manor. Before leaving the room, class had looked in the mirror thinking, I'm so small. He looked to be about 10 years old. Short, but with firm, toned muscles. This was the result of spending day and night with a sword to survive in the Vanham family, the strongest martial arts clan in the Stalin Kingdom. Gracier looked out at the garden, speculating that if he was at the Gizinbei estate, it meant the coming-of-age ceremony for his 10th year had just ended. The Vanham family's coming-of-age ceremony proves one's worth by revealing the god one has made a pact with and the skills they have been granted. The main Vanham bloodline has always been highly respected, but Gracier was the sole exception. He was born completely without martial abilities because no god had chosen him. Afterward, Gracier was cast out from the main residence. He recalled the moment he stood alone before the massive gate of his home. Gracier bit his lip, his heart filled with anger as he was sent to the Gizinbei villa, a prison for the family's failures. Now he alone, the most talentless member of the Vanham clan, knew about the coming apocalypse, a catastrophe that not even the Azuz generation could survive. Can I really stop it? Gracier imagined a pile of bodies stacked on top of each other, muttering, The end of the world, huh? He trembled, raising his small arm high. Gracier then clenched his fist tightly, telling himself, Stop whining, this isn't about whether I can do it or not. It's something I absolutely must do, because if the world ends, I'll die with it. Gracier curled his fingers, putting on a devilish expression. There's no other choice, and the first step to preventing this catastrophe is, right now. The sound of footsteps echoed. Aji Ode placed a hand on his chest and bowed 90 degrees, calling out, Young master! The boy approaching immediately recognized the familiar face. So he's still alive at this point, huh? Then he asked cheerfully, What are you doing here? Aji Ode, the sole butler of the Gizinbei villa, took Gracier's hand and replied, Is something wrong, young master? Aji was the one who cared for a failure like him, but his face was suddenly slick with sweat as he heard the words whispered in his ear, The poison my brother gave you to kill me. The boy's eyes were wide and lifeless as he questioned, When were you planning to use it? That man was the mastermind who had Gracier drink poison at the age of 54, teaching him his first lesson in betrayal. The scene changes to a training ground, where several young men have been sent flying everywhere, and the one who defeated them was a young woman with an incredibly long weapon in her hand. A mysterious spiritual energy radiated from her body the moment the others hit the ground with a thud. The crowd of onlookers couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment, Is she really only 15 years old? The knights can't even touch her. The title Sword Saint isn't just for show. Charlotte Vanham, Gracier's older sister, spoke in a flat, bored tone. How boring. Everyone started talking amongst themselves. They say she's a once-in-a-millennium genius. That's right, it's true. That's why the family is placing such high hopes on her. Belokan Vanham, Gracier's half-brother, heard every word. A genius born from the new bloodline. That's what people are saying about her. Thanks to her, the Vanham family will never perish. His eyes glared, his tone dripping with venom. I will wipe out that entire bloodline. But Charlotte is too dangerous. That mother of hers is formidable, too. The two people sitting in front continued to whisper. What's wrong with Lord Belokan? Hey, be quiet. Belokan laughed maniacally. Then all that's left is that useless failure. Not long after, he placed both hands on a table, discussing matters with Aji Ode. I was planning to kill him even before you did. Aji Ode, you must be in a tight spot, right? Because of Gracier, your career has stalled, hasn't it? If you give Gracier just one drop of this, your daughter's medical treatment and all of your debts will be taken care of. Do you understand? So, what are you hesitating for? The man lowered his head and objected. Young Master Gracier is someone I've raised like my own son. How could I do that to him? The other man crossed his arms and let out a sharp sigh, asking, Aji Ode, you'd choose another man's son over your own daughter? Aji Ode's lips were pressed into a tight line, his voice trembling. No, sir! Suddenly, someone coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood onto their plate of food. A small hand flew up as a piercing scream rang out. Gracier, with tears welling in his eyes, watched the man fall, calling out in confusion, Aji! The man clutched his own throat, his voice trembling. I am so sorry, young Master Gracier. Before he regressed, Aji Ode had planned to assassinate him. Now he gently stroked Gracier's cheek. Young Master Gracier is as precious to me as my own child. A moment later, Aji Ode's hand fell to the ground with a thud. He groaned, But what have I done? Aji Ode, unable to bear the guilt, had eaten the poisoned soup himself before he passed away. Back in the present, his eyes widened as he heard, The poison. that my brother gave you to kill me." The boy emphasized every single word. "When were you planning to use it?" Ajio jumped, shouting, "What poison?" Gracier narrowed his eyes, exposing him. "Are you going to play dumb? You were going to kill me. A failure for the sake of your daughter, weren't you?" The man lowered his head at the accusation. "You think I don't know?" Gracier thought to himself. "At this rate, I'll just back him into a corner again." He sighed and said, "Anyway, if you want to keep pretending, then suit yourself. If I wasn't a failure from the start, and then you would have never received that order in the first place." Aji Ode's brow furrowed in thought. He'd expected the boy to blame himself upon learning of the betrayal, or perhaps cry in outrage. But that wasn't it. Gracier suddenly turned back towards him. He raised his hand and declared, "Join my side." The man was startled, wondering, has young Master Gracier changed? The scene shifts to the library filled with neatly arranged books. Aji Ode looked around, asking himself, why did he suddenly want to come to the study? Gracier reached a hand toward a nearby wall and commanded, "Aji Ode, cut this wall down for me." The man exclaimed in shock, "What?" The boy chuckled. "If you're a butler of the Vanham family, something like this should be easy, right?" Aji hesitantly replied, "Of course, sir." After that, he drew his sword, and an instantaneous surge of spiritual energy radiated from the weapon. He quickly made a few slashes, causing the wall to crack. A moment later, it crumbled down, revealing a path inside. Krazer exclaimed, "Whoa, such clean cuts!" Ajord couldn't help but be shocked. "A secret passage here?" Krazer walked ahead, praising, "Well done." Ajord watched his back, thinking to himself, "It's just as I thought. He's completely different from the man he was yesterday. Is he using a luminous pearl for light? He exudes an aura that reminds me of the head of the family. What on earth happened?" Krazer's eyes widened as he recalled a memory. The last time he came here, everything was already burnt to a crisp. But this time, Krazer had made it before that could happen. Ajord offered, "Young master, allow me to cut the chains." Krazer glanced back, stopping him. "You won't be able to cut these chains." He raised his hand and grinned. Maybe I should give it a shot this time. Skill. Black hat. Streams of his aura instantly shot towards the chains, severing them with incredible ease. A moment later, Krazer grabbed the lock, much to Ajord's astonishment. He dropped it, thinking to himself, "So heavy. The skill's power hasn't faded, huh?" Ajord asked curiously, "Young master, could it be that you have formed a pact with a god?" Hearing this, Krazer's expression darkened. He thought, "So, at this point in time, I haven't made a pact yet." Then he spoke up, "Yes, I just signed one with a nameless god. As for the library, feel free to report it to Father." Ajord froze for a moment, momentarily at a loss. He remembered, it was only yesterday. The young master's eyes looked like those of someone who had lost their reason to live. But in just one night, he's changed. Thanks to the divine pact, he must have obtained an incredibly powerful skill. After all, he shares the same blood as the Vanhama's greatest genius. Even if he couldn't unleash the Scarlet, the young Master Krazer of today, perhaps. He gulped nervously. Ajord called out, "Young master!" As Krazer glanced back, Ajord placed a hand on his chest and vowed, "At the very least, until you have finished what you set out to do, I will not reveal this matter to anyone, sir." Krazer thought glumly, "I see. This is the downside of regression. Because my actions differ from the past, Ajord is changing as well. But the Ajord who betrayed me, he will forever live on in my memory." Did Arthur have to endure this paradox too? Is that why he made me learn the regression skill? Ajord. If I cure his daughter's illness, he'll surely swear his loyalty to me, won't he? I should increase the number of my pawns that I can use while I'm living here. Krazer suddenly turned and waved his hand, saying, "Do as you see fit." He thought to himself, "I'll think about curing his daughter later. Right now, the secret library is my priority." As the door creaked open, a stream of red energy shot out, and Krazer's eyes widened in shock. Instantly, a gout of fire shot straight towards the two of them. He couldn't help but feel a jolt of fear at the sight. Krazer sensed that energy and muttered, "To think that even after experiencing the world's erosion so many times, I'm still afraid of this place." There's no mistake, his grimoire is definitely here. Not long after, he noticed a thick, bound book. Found it. The secret library of the Blue Pine Pavilion. The ancestors of the Vanhama family who were deemed failures. They recorded all of their techniques and memories here. Not skills, but the fruits of humanity's labor. And this is where the grimoires to reach the Supreme Realm are kept. Initially, this place was open to anyone, but because of one person, it became a secret library. That person was Gemarizer Vanhama. He was the worst failure in the history of the Vanhama family, but also the one who was swallowed by the world's erosion, only to become the most powerful. At this, Krazer gave a wry smile and slowly raised his arm. He placed his hand on the book, thinking, "My apologies for being late, my ancestors. Now this belongs to me. The grimoire left behind by that monstrous failure is a secret about to be unveiled. The man whose body was entirely crimson with only his pearly white teeth showing was Yemarisser Vanhama. He was that failure. The worst in the history of the Vanhama family, but at the same time, the strongest person who ever existed here. At the peak of his power, an image of Gemarizer fighting alone appears. The world's mightiest warriors challenged him. He wielded the power in his hands, and in the blink of an eye, wiped them all out. Though he faced many powerful opponents, none could stand in his way. Within Gemarizer's body coursed the extreme blood toxin, a poison that seeped into his very blood. Holding the book, Krazer thought, he fused the world's erosion into his body and mastered the insane technique to control that power. He recalled the past. I couldn't get the complete book last time. Half of it was burned, so I never understood why Gemarizer met that end. Then a smirk played on his lips. Did he go mad because he couldn't control the rampant erosion? Krazer thought back to his past, to when he was attacked by the curse of the world's erosion. I used Black Hat to weaken the curse, and somehow managed to withstand it by balancing it with other curses. He stared intently at the book. He calculated silently in his mind, if the same principle applies to the rampage of the extreme toxin. One side was a white serpent, the other a black orb. Krazer thought, and somehow I endured it, by balancing it with other curses. The two beasts fused together, forming a perfect sphere. He looked at it, used his skill, and thought with a smirk, I can become just as strong as Gemarizer. Krazer called out, Ajiord! Ajiord immediately answered, Yes, young master. Krazer commanded, From this day on, ensure that no one enters the Blue Pine Pavilion. That is an order. He immediately complied. Yes, I understand. Ajiode adjusted his glasses, his heart filled with emotion. The young master has forgiven my mistake. I must repay this kindness. I will refuse young Master Belokin's offer. My master is young Master Cerseus. In the room, Belokin furiously roared, What did you just say? You're rejecting my invitation for that idiot? He cursed relentlessly. We can't have trash like him in the Vanham family. One a damn rare genius and the other that failure. This is driving me insane, Belokin remembered, thinking, if it weren't for that bitch's filthy bloodline, both Lilith and I would have kept our positions in the main family hall. He remembered Lilith's disgusted expression. Belokin gritted his teeth in fury. He snarled, Hey! A subordinate approached and asked, You called for me, my lord? Lord Belokin. The subordinate listened as Belokin ordered, Go to the Lamb-Tongue Pavilion where Cerseus is immediately. Find out why that butler changed his mind. Investigate it thoroughly for me. The subordinate reported back to him, But we can't get inside, sir. Belokin was shocked. What? The subordinate replied, Young Master Cerseus's butler, Ajiode, has sealed the entrance. He has forbidden everyone, including the family head, from setting foot in the Lamb-Tongue Pavilion. Belokin's brow furrowed, his voice low. Forbidding even the family head? What is this? While Cerseus was training, he snapped, You're getting way too arrogant. That failure. Meanwhile, Cerseus let out a breath. Circulating his aura, he said excitedly, Finally, I've reached the initial stage of an aura expert. He mentally reviewed the levels of aura. There are several levels of aura. Aura Emperor, Aura Master, Aura Expert, Beginner Aura. The initial stage is Beginner Aura, the state where one has just learned to use aura. Cerseus thought to himself, the second stage is Aura Expert, the level that most people reach. It's also the boundary that separates ordinary people from geniuses. He admired, I've only just reached the realm of the mediocre, while Charlotte, who's only 2 years older than me, is already an aura master. Her talent is truly astounding. But Cerseus remembered the image of her collapsing. Even Charlotte, an extraordinary prodigy, was helpless, her weary face. Charlotte's exhausted and disheartened face appeared before the destruction. He mused, I'm still just an amateur. Cerseus thought sadly, can I really save the world at this pace? But a more mature Cerseus spoke up. You'll never know if you don't try. His mature self said, whining is useless. In the beginning, we couldn't even use aura before reversing time because of the curse. But things are different now, aren't they? The image of her standing under the radiant sun. Though I can't compare to Charlotte. Looking at the book on the table, Cerseus thought, I can still grow if I can just master the secrets left behind by that failure. Both his mature self and his younger self were determined. The magical power surged within him. I can become stronger. For now, this is enough. He approached with a towel, calling out warmly, Young Master, congratulations on reaching the initial stage of the expert realm. Cerseus took the towel and replied, It's nothing worth mentioning. As he dried himself, he asked, More importantly, why were you waiting in a place like this? Ajiode replied respectfully. Your fiancée, Lady Bianca Heidenhair, has arrived at the Lamb-Tongue Pavilion, sir. Curtius was surprised to hear that name. He immediately thought of the Bianca of the future. The White Demon, Bianca? He remembered her on the battlefield. Although she was a leader, she became a pawn for those who sought to conquer and destroy this world. She was also the one who defeated one of the 10 great warlords to earn the title White Demon. Cerseus looked down from the window. Even though right now, she's just the youngest daughter of the Heidenhair family, at this moment, the small girl was standing at the gate, waiting. A political marriage. He thought about the union. Even though right now she's just the youngest daughter of the Heidenhair family, the Vanham family gets a chance to get rid of a useless failure. And the Heidenhair family would become the Lords of the North, allying with the most powerful martial clan. Cerseus scoffed at himself. We're both just being used by our families. Bianca waited below. Cerseus said, Actually, I had something I needed to see Bianca about too. I didn't expect her to come here on her own. He thought about her past. Bianca Heidenhair, the youngest daughter of the Heidenhair family, Lords of the North. Because her mother was afflicted by the curse of world erosion. Before she was born, she was emotionless from the moment of her birth. An image of an expressionless newborn baby appeared. The erosion had seeped deep into her soul and couldn't be broken by any exorcism. And with a tainted body, she couldn't form a pact with the spirits. He pondered. She was even considered a cursed child born by sacrificing her mother's life. A scene of her all alone appeared. That's why Bianca was treated so coldly by the Heidenhair family. Cerseus wondered, come to think of it, I wonder if Bianca hates me. He schemed inwardly. As long as it doesn't interfere with my plan to steal Bianca's curse, it should be fine, because the snow doll is the very curse needed to control the berserk state when the ultimate poison seeps into the blood. Cerseus turned and asked, Going out dressed like this probably isn't a good idea, right? He immediately understood and replied, I will prepare a change of clothes for you right away. Cerseus said, Yeah, thanks. Cerseus then ordered, Show her inside, and tell her to wait for a moment. Cerseus gestured. Bianca, 5 months ago. He had told her curtly, Get lost. You only care about the Vanham family's power, don't you? So don't bother pretending to be my fiancée. She had stood there, emotionless, just watching. Now, Bianca stood alone in the large room. She sighed and said, It's not like I wanted to come here either. Bianca thought back to what they had told her. My daughter, the only way for the Heidenhair family to survive is to rely on the Vanhams. In any case, you have a pretty face. You'll surely win the affection of the young Vanham master. The old man patted her shoulder. Bianca touched her own shoulder, remembering his words. The fate of the Heidenhair family rests on your shoulders. Even without emotions, I can still tell right from wrong, Bianca thought, recalling Kraz's arrogant demeanor. If my family hadn't forced me into this political marriage, a pessimistic, foul-mouthed failure like him is exactly the type of person I would have rejected. Bianca rubbed her shoulder, inwardly disgusted. A moment later, Kraz flinched. Oh, shoot, he said with a forced laugh. I didn't expect them to serve the tea this hot, especially for someone with a sensitive palate like yours. I'll have a word with the servants later. Let's just set it here for now. Bianca, her face still void of emotion, looked at him, then glanced at the garden and suggested, The weather is lovely today. Shall we take a walk in the garden? There must be many flowers there that can't grow in the north, she said, agreeing. Kraz then instructed, Agiord, bring some macadamia cookies out to the garden. Agiord immediately complied. Yes, young master. As they walked, he started a conversation. Bianca, you must have had a difficult journey getting here. She replied coolly, Since we are engaged, meetings like this are quite necessary, I suppose. Is that so? Kraz asked. He chuckled and said, And here I was, feeling like the way you speak to your fiancé sounds more like you're addressing a superior than a lover. Bianca studied Kraz's expression, comparing him to the man she'd met before. She realized that the last time they met, his eyes were as sharp and cold as a blade, but today, he was completely different. What's more, I never told him I liked macadamia cookies. Once they were in the garden, he looked around, enjoying the view. It's so peaceful. Bianca asked him point blank, Are you really Kraz? Silence fell after her question. Kraz was quiet for a moment. Then he touched his head, a hint of a dangerous aura emanating from him as he spoke. Am I that different from how I used to be? Sensing that dangerous aura, Bianca immediately bowed her head. My apologies, Sir Kraz, I was out of line. Damn it, Kraz thought. That's not what I meant at all. He tried to search his memories, but his recollection of this time was too hazy, so he couldn't remember how he used to treat Bianca. But the one thing he did remember clearly. He looked at Bianca. It was this very expression that she wore at the moment she was about to die. She had worn the exact same expression back then. When she had collapsed in front of the Northern Sea Ice Villa, Kraz forced the memory away. I'll just have to deflect for now. He joked, Well, I can't really blame you for being suspicious. Bianca, I recently signed a contract with a god, you see. She naively believed him, thinking, so that's why his personality changed. Congratulations, young Master Kraz, Bianca said. He then spoke up. Well, in that case, I have a proposal for you. A proposal? Bianca wondered about young Master Kraz. A man willing to make a pact with a god has a proposal for me? She wondered. Is he going to call off the engagement? Kraz quickly denied it. Why would you think that? He explained, what I mean is, if you don't want to marry someone like me, if you wish to cancel the engagement, then please. He's belittling himself again, Bianca thought. Even though he carries the blood of the Van Ham family, why is Sir Kraz so insecure? She took a breath and said with conviction, I will be your fiancé, Sir Kraz. That will not change. Kraz blushed, wondering to himself, how long has it been since I heard someone speak with such sincerity? He composed himself and said aloud, Is that right? Well then, let's get to the main point. With the power I have just awakened. Kraz held out his hand and proposed, Would you be willing to transfer that curse, the one that even expert curse breakers are powerless against, to me? She was stunned and suspicious. Did he just say transfer the unbreakable curse? Without hesitating, Bianca confirmed, You mean you want to take this curse from me? He answered immediately, Yes, I need to use it. If you're willing to give it to me, I will grant you any one wish, even if that wish is for destruction. This is a situation where my emotionless curse actually works to my advantage, she analyzed. I know Kraz is considered a failure. If that's the case, he must be in conflict with the main branch of the family. Bianca imagined Kraz becoming emotionless. Perhaps he wants this because he's just so exhausted, asterisk. So exhausted that he wants to erase his emotions completely? She didn't answer immediately, lost in her speculation. Could this be a mental illness? Bianca recalled the words of a psycho-mage she had once consulted. When a person reaches their mental limit, they can succumb to an illness of the heart. The man had pointed to a book on psychiatry and told her, once they fall ill, they might take their own life, or suddenly become gentle, as if they're a completely different person. Bianca thought of his words. He had warned her. That is an extremely dangerous moment. Those symptoms are a sign of the final outcome. Bianca, if someone close to you ever falls into that state, she grabbed Kraz's hand, remembering the advice. You must stay by their side. Bianca tried to comfort him. It's going to be all right. I know you can get through this. Sir Kraz, you can learn to control your emotions without having to rely on a curse, he said, flustered. Huh? Bianca, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding here. She suddenly became uncharacteristically gentle. From now on, I'll visit you more often. If I can get my father's permission, I might even move nearby to be closer to you. Kraz panicked, feeling that something was terribly wrong. Why would she suddenly say something like that? Wait a minute. Don't you hate me? You don't really want this engagement, do you? Bianca said, Even so, I can't just abandon someone who is standing on the brink of hardship. He wondered, she's not denying it? Looking into her eyes, Kraz thought he understood. Bianca was the type of person who, once she made a decision, would charge headfirst into it. But he felt like she was misunderstanding something. This is getting serious. He considered his options. If he couldn't take the curse, maybe he could try activating a skill in secret? Kraz immediately cast the Black Hat skill on Bianca. He channeled the energy, and it grew in his hands. Kraz saw a lock forming. The system panel presented a condition to unlock it. Condition 1, become Bianca's friend. Kraz thought with interest, a double lock? How troublesome. Since this is a curse she's had from birth, it's considered a part of her body and has been assigned a value, even though curses aren't supposed to have locks. He looked at the cold expression on her face and sighed inwardly. This is even harder than becoming her fiancé. Bianca has no emotions, so she rarely showed interest in anything. Kraz considered the situation. Even so, sending her back to Haydn HS will only make her turn into the White Demon faster. I'll keep Bianca by my side and wait for a chance to unlock it. If I can stop her from becoming the White Demon and get the Snow Doll, it'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He took Bianca's hand, feigning delight. That makes me very happy. I'm so grateful to be able to see my fiancé so often. I promise I'll confirm this with my father and return. Bianca said her goodbyes. See you again, sir. Sir Kras watched her leave, thinking, it'll be another month before she comes back here. I should use the time to read as many arcane books as possible. Things are about to get busy. The next morning at the Jinbei estate, a familiar carriage arrived. Wooden barrels were unloaded one by one. With a creak, the door opened. Greetings, Sir Kras, she said as she stepped out. From today, I will be living at the Jinbei estate. I look forward to being in your care. He panicked internally. She's planning on living here with me? Kras opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Bianca's fair face, sound asleep. He quickly sat up. "Bianca, did she sleep here again?" He scratched his head and let out a long yawn. People are going to get the wrong idea if they see us like this. At that moment, she also woke up, looking at him drowsily. "Good morning, Sir Kraz. But why are you here?" Hearing her question, Kraz got angry. "I should be the one asking that question." After Bianca woke up, Kraz sat in meditation, trying to increase his power. Sweat dripped all over his body. Kraz thought to himself, come to think of it, it's been several months since Bianca and I started living together. He thought back to when she stood before him and said she would be living with him. At that time, Kraz was completely shocked, his eyes wide, the astonishment clear on his face. You've moved in already?" Kraz asked, bewildered. "Yes," Bianca replied quickly. "There were no objections. My family agreed immediately." Kraz was a little worried, thinking to himself, I mean, will she be okay, being so far from home? She's only 12 years old, isn't she? Perhaps because Bianca has no emotions, her bond with her family is also weak, and she doesn't really understand those feelings. Well, maybe that's the good thing, since I want to become her friend. Kraz saw Bianca trailing behind him, like the relationship between a mother hen and her chick. He was still sitting and training his power, holding a long black sword in his hand. That happened in the summer. Now it's already winter. This year is about to end too. That means the opening day for La Elni Academy is approaching. La Elni Academy was founded through a partnership between the 4 great kingdoms and the Empire to train talents who could fight against the world's erosion. It only accepts students between 15 and 20 years old. Before I returned to the past, this place trained countless members of the Azuz generation. Many of them even possessed high-level skills. The more Kraz thought about it, the angrier he got, grinding his teeth. Because of those bastards. He clenched his fists. I know their weaknesses better than anyone else. I can easily steal their skills once I enroll in the academy. I'll steal them from every single one of them, one by one. Next year, he would be 14 years old, so he had about a year to prepare. Kraz needed to become stronger before then, but his talent was already starting to reach its limit. Kraz slowly lifted the jet-black sword, gritting his teeth. These magic books can only get me to the elementary level of an aura expert. To break past this limit, I have to seize Bianca's Snowdoll curse as soon as possible and learn how to use the extreme blood infusion. Sir Kraz opened his room door. He saw her sitting in a chair reading a book. Bianca, were you waiting for me again today? Holding her book, Bianca trailed after him. Yes, I can't leave you alone. As he walked, Sir Kraz thought, since this summer, Bianca has been sticking to me like a shadow. Everywhere I go, she follows. Is she planning on following me into the bathroom too? Geez, what's with her? Kraz ran a hand through his hair in frustration. How much longer will it be before Bianca actually considers me her friend? Would you like to go out for a walk? Suddenly, Ajad approached and reported, Young master, an invitation from the Starlight Sanctum has arrived. Upon hearing this, Kraz froze. The Starlight Sanctum. It's a formal banquet. It's held annually for the young nobility of the Kingdom of Stalin. Almost everyone attends, except in special cases. It's an opportunity to socialize and build relationships. He held the invitation in his hand. Now I remember. Thanks for the reminder, Ajad. Kraz was lost in thought. Before he returned to the past, he had locked himself away in the Blue Pine Hall, so his memories of this event were rather faint. He looked away from the invitation. That guy will definitely be there too. I should go to keep my promise to Azord. That way, he won't have an excuse to do what he did last time. Kraz handed the invitation to Azord. Inform them that I will be attending. Bianca slowly approached, whispering in his ear, I'm going too. Kraz immediately understood and relayed the message to Azord. Bianca says she will accompany me. He replied with a, yes, sir, and quickly left. Bianca looked at him. Kraz, those attending the Starlight Sanctum will surely criticize you. He put his hands on his hips. Well, who knows what they'll say about you too. Maybe it's better if you don't go. Bianca's expression was firm. She placed a hand on her chest. I will go with you, my lord. Kraz said, besides, protecting one's fiancé is a fiancé's duty, right? He then gently placed his hand on Bianca's head, stroking it. I'm not asking as your fiancé, though. I just want to hear your honest opinion, Bianca. She looked at him slowly and thought to herself, there's that look of pity again. For the past few months, Kraz had treated her with a perplexing kindness. Kraz would ask with concern, Bianca, what would you like for breakfast? And at times, he would take her hand. Let's go pick out the next book in the study together. When the two were in the garden, Kraz covered her with a blanket while she was asleep. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. You should sleep a bit more. Bianca drowsily opened her eyes. So warm. In the Hayden family, no one has ever been this gentle with me. At that time, Bianca was sitting obediently under a tree, watching Kraz practice his swordsmanship. Kraz was so kind that she had almost forgotten the horrible first meeting between them. Because of that, she no longer hated Kraz. Bianca maintained her determined expression. I will go with you, not as your fiancé, but as myself. That is my honest feeling. Seeing her like this surprised Kraz a little. His cheeks flushed pink. Satisfied, the corners of Kraz's lips curved into a slight smile. I understand. They rode in a carriage amidst a warm and peaceful sunset. The sun shone gently, and the atmosphere was incredibly pleasant. Kraz looked out the window. So this is Gadu, huh? It really is the most famous place in the region. Did they rent out the entire venue? Just how rich are they? The reason the nobility in this world are respected is that they fight against the world's erosion on behalf of the common people. And yet, those idiots don't even bother to train. They just party all night long. And they're supposed to be the future of Stalin? Kras and Bianca entered the sanctum together. He looked around. I wonder how many decent people are left in this glittering sanctum. An announcement rang out. Lord Kras Van Ham and Lady Bianca Hayden have arrived. When people saw the two appear, whispers and murmurs began to spread. Kras, that failed son of the Van Ham family? And the girl with this curse from the powerful northern clan, too. What a match made in heaven. I heard they're already engaged. Don't stare. If you don't want to get cursed, don't go near her. Kras glanced at the people, thinking to himself, always surrounded by these phony nobles. Balak Blackma laughed. Van Ham! Looks like an interesting character has appeared. Kras looked towards the source of the voice. But true nobles still exist here. The ones who will later join the Azuze generation. Balak Blackma, the ferocious young tiger Arlatin Amelia, and Annex Woodbow. These three would later be known as the Trio of Stalin. To avoid further trouble, he quickly turned away. Those three are watching me now. It's probably because of Charlotte. He thought about what his sister had said. Listen here. Kras, I wore a dress just like this that day. Guys kept coming up to talk to me non-stop, but not a single one could beat me in a duel. The Starlight Sanctum? I think it should be called the Garbage Sanctum. Charlotte looked at the terrified Kras, who was curled up in a blanket. So boring. I swear I'll never set foot in there again. That's what Charlotte had bragged about back then. Kras was a bit speechless. Looking at the atmosphere here, I can tell she definitely caused a huge scene. Suddenly, Bianca gently tugged on his sleeve. Lord Kras, don't mind what other people are saying. Kras was taken aback. I was just thinking about Charlotte. He thought, she's being insulted like this, and she isn't bothered by it? And she's still worried about me? Kras patted Bianca's head. I don't mind at all. Kras turned his head, his eyes scanning the room. Now when is he going to show up? Don't tell me he's not coming. Another announcement rang out. Lord Dalian Flynn has arrived! Kras sighed to himself. Speak of the devil, the most eccentric one of all the nobles. Dalian smiled and winked. Greetings, everyone. This is the master alchemist, Dalian Flynn. An admiring voice rang out. Oh my, your whole body is covered in curses. What on earth happened to make you this miserable? Two small hands reached up. The blonde-haired boy patted Kras's face. For a corrosive curse, if you combine this and this, it might just work. Seems plausible. He asked excitedly, Hey, are you interested in being my test subject? I'll heal you. Without letting Crasher say a word, he continued, What, don't even have the strength to answer anymore? His face was filled with excitement. All right then, I'll just start on my own. Crasher's eyes shot wide open. As Dalene's delicate face drew near, it made Crasher panic. Stop! He shouted angrily. Are you insane? Get away from me! He is Dalin Gianfranco, the Lord of the Alchemist Castle. That was the first time I met the man who would later be known as the world's greatest alchemist. At the moment, Dalene was cheerfully running to the party, greeting everyone. Everyone started whispering. Lord Dalene looks amazing today, too. Is that the freak, Dalene? He came late on purpose just to get attention, didn't he? Seeing this, Crasher sighed helplessly. Oh, brother. An attention seeker would obviously show up where people his age are gathered. With that, he turned around and called to Bianca. Wait for me here, okay? She obediently complied. Yes. Then, Crasher walked over to Dalene, making him wonder, who is that guy? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Crasher approached and introduced himself. Crasher Van Ham. Hearing that, Dalene vaguely remembered. Van Ham! Of course, he looks just like Charlotte. His eyes lit up. You're Charlotte's little brother, aren't you? Is there something you want to talk to me about? Or were you just drawn in by my good looks? Crasher's voice lowered. Lately, it seems you've been digging up information about the world's erosion, haven't you? This made Dalene freeze. A cunning look appeared on Crasher's face. I wonder if saying that makes me a little more interesting to you, Dalin scoffed. You really are a provocative little brat. Since you've piqued my curiosity, you'd better be prepared. With that, the two of them arrived at a door. Please do not enter. Dalene went inside and asked, So, Crasher, how old are you now? His hand reached for two swords. Crasher replied, 13. But does age really matter that much? Deline gave a sarcastic smile. 13. You do look young, but your aura is completely different. Inside his head, Crasher sighed. Well, on the inside, I'm an adult. I've already graduated from the academy, so, he said out loud, I don't have much time. If it's all right, I'd like to get straight to the point. Deline cheerfully agreed. Go ahead, talk. He threw a sword to Crasher. Here, catch. Suddenly, Crasher's eyes widened in shock. He quickly parried the sword Deline was swinging at him. Crasher asked, bewildered, What the hell are you doing? Dalin Gianfranco. He laughed with amusement. It's my first time meeting Charlotte's little brother, so I just wanted to test your skills first. Crasher thought with annoyance. What a pain in the ass. Deline lunged forward. By the way, didn't you say you had something to discuss? I'm listening. Go on, say it. He replied while parrying the blow. Oh, that! As he finished speaking, Crasher forcefully knocked his sword away. Deline was a little surprised. Aren't you supposed to be a failure with no skills? Crasher struggled to fight back. Even if it looks that way, I train every single day. This is tough. Should I use my secret technique to deal with an alchemist? Or maybe I should just shake him up a bit. Thinking this, he lowered his voice and said, That research, about nullifying curses. I can help you with that. These words shocked Deline. What? He became angry. What do you know about alchemy that makes you dare say you'll cooperate with me? Crasher's gaze grew intense. His feet pivoted forward. Deline raised his sword high with a scornful look. Crasher quickly parried, combining it with an explanation. The research to nullify curses. Things that even curse-breaking mages haven't been able to undo by using another curse to become a first-rate alchemist. You have to prove that research is possible, don't you? Dalin took a breath. Crasher promised, I will help you with your research. He held out his hand. With my curse-stealing skill. This left Deline stunned. Isn't he supposed to be a talentless failure? The next second, a compromising smile spread across his face. If what Crasher says is true, then this really is the perfect opportunity to help my curse nullification research. Deline placed a hand on his chest. What should I do to repay you? He teased. Become my boyfriend, for example? Crasher helplessly yelled. What the hell are you talking about? I'm going to collect a lot of curses in the future. I want you to create potions that can alleviate them. Dalin laughed with delight. Concocting potions is my specialty after all. Crasher thought to himself. If all I have is the skill-stealing technique, it won't be enough. Even the generation of people who could use extraordinary skills couldn't stop the destruction. A failure like me has to use every means possible, whether it's medicine or anything else. Witnessing this expression, Deline marveled. I heard he lost all his motivation because he was constantly being compared to Charlotte. But it seems that wasn't the case. An overwhelming genius and a total outcast. Both sisters thought of coming here. Deline couldn't help but tremble with excitement. He asked, May I ask you something? Crash replied, What is it? Dalin posed his question. Are you planning to attend the soon-to-be-established La Elna Academy? Hearing this, Crash gave a sly grin. Of course I am. This made Deline even more excited. There are tons of skills for me to steal at the academy, after all. He waved his arms and legs around, cheering, All right then, I'll do anything, concocting potions, whatever. If it's related to a curse, I'm always on board. Of course, a spot is open for me too, right? Crash was speechless. This guy hasn't changed a bit. He's always been this way. Suddenly, he remembered something. But besides that, there's one more thing I want to ask. Crash questioned him. You know about the color-changing disease, don't you? Deline explained. It's an incurable disease that turns the skin bluish-black and eventually leads to death. Crash ordered, create a cure for that disease. Oh, this made Deline's face stiffen. He quickly argued, Don't you know what incurable means? Even for me, that's impossible, Crash thought. Even so, you still managed to complete it later on. That's a story for the distant future. Crash let out a weary sigh. He held his hand out in front of him. Crash encouraged him. You can do it. Deline gave a wry smile. Hearing you say that really stings my pride. The two of them then high-fived. Crash instructed, When the medicine is ready, be sure to contact the Ramson Pavilion. Dalin disagreed. I'll bring it to you myself. Crash's expression darkened. By the way, there's something I've been wondering about for a long time. He asked him directly. You like my older sister, don't you? Dalin cheered joyfully. I love Charlotte so much! Seeing that, Crash was confused. Then why did you say earlier that the spot next to you was still empty? And you mentioned something about a boyfriend, too. Deline feigned ignorance. What are you talking about, huh? Crash, and you're still young, so you probably don't understand. I like guys, too. I can love both men and women, you see? These words instantly gave Crash goosebumps. He ran far away, but Deline stretched out his arms and called after him, Hey, wait! My future lover! Crash returned to the main hall, still muttering. So he's that kind of person, huh? Just then, ahead, a noisy crowd was gathered around, watching something. Crash's face suddenly darkened. Over there, a man was grabbing Bianca's hand. Her arm was gripped so tightly it was red and raw. Bianca softly called out, "Crash!" Instantly he appeared and struck a blow. The man was sent flying. As he sat up, clutching his head, Crash was already in front of him. His voice was ice-cold as he demanded, "You dare force yourself on my fiancé? What do you want, huh?" The man he'd struck held his face in fear and asked, "Force myself?" Crash's brow furrowed in fury. "You're deliberately messing with a 12-year-old child." Veins bulged on his forehead as he took slow steps forward. "Do you have that kind of twisted fetish, you piece of trash?" The man, terrified, explained, "No, it's not like that." Frightened, he blurted out "I am merely following the orders of the two princesses." Crash was utterly stunned. An order from the two princesses? He looked down and spoke a name. "Gladiator Talon." The man, hearing his name, replied, "That's right. The two princesses ordered me to bring Lady Bianca to them, but Lady Bianca refused. Although I didn't want to drag her here like this, it's a royal command. I have no choice." Crash glanced at Bianca, who was rubbing her wrist. "Bianca, she's the youngest daughter of the Hayden family, a northern princess, but because of that curse, Bianca's reputation among the nobility is very low." He couldn't help but wonder why the princesses, such admirable people, would insist on summoning her like this. He placed a hand on his chin, thinking. Something wasn't right. A doubt grew in his heart. Could there be another connection? Suddenly, an image of Annexer flashed through his mind. He clenched his fist in anger. Annexer, he thought. He remembered how his sister used to follow her around obsessively. After Annexer was defeated at the Star Temple, even though she hated Charlotte, she couldn't let go of her admiration. In the end, it became twisted. He started connecting all the events. When she couldn't defeat Charlotte with her own power, she started shifting her target to me, Charlotte's little brother. Crass now understood everything. He let out a breath, his entire body radiating killing intent as he questioned him. "And now you're dragging Bianca into this too?" He relented. "Fine, I'll go." The man was shocked to hear this. Crass continued, "But instead of meeting the two princesses, I'll be meeting Annexer." The man asked in surprise, "Lady Annexer? Why?" Crass pulled Bianca along, replying coldly, "You may serve the princesses, but I don't know who really gave you this order, or if they're even involved. Honestly, you've even picked up your master's bad habits." He took Bianca's hand. "Let's go, Bianca." She gently replied, "Yes, Sir Caracer." The two of them walked hand in hand down the palace hall. Caracer glanced over at her, a little curious. Bianca. Why did she refuse to go? He thought to himself. I think I can guess who's behind this, since I've been through this before. But he was extremely surprised that Bianca had refused the princess's invitation. At 12 years old, Bianca shouldn't have been able to grasp the situation. So why is she ignoring a direct order from the princess now? Caracer turned and called, "Bianca?" "Huh?" she answered softly. "Yes?" He asked doubtfully, "Why didn't you obey the princess's order?" Bianca looked down and replied, "Because Sir Caracer told me to wait for you." Hearing her words, he was incredibly surprised. Caracer smiled faintly, completely satisfied. He reached out, patting Bianca's head, and praised her. "Good girl." The two of them arrived at Annexer's office. Seeing him, Balak the Black Mage let out an "Oh!" He walked over, exclaiming, "Well, well, you actually came." Caracer replied coldly, "I'm here to see Annexer." The man smiled, pointed towards the room, and replied, "That's right. Annexer told me to let you in the moment you arrived, Caracer." He frowned, thinking to himself, "So this is Balak the Black Mage." He was puzzled. Back then, why did I think he was a master dual-wielding swordsman? Where did it all start to go wrong? Caracer reached for the door. Thankfully, Balak the Black Mage offered his help. Standing behind him, Balak said, "How about this, then?" He leaned in close to his face and proposed, "I'm curious about you, too." "Caracer, fight me!" Caracer sighed inwardly. So it's come to this after all. He refused. Fighting is forbidden in the Holy Temple. The man rushed forward, retorting, "But you already fought Charlotte. So fighting you shouldn't be a problem either, right? You're weaker than Charlotte, after all." Caracer glanced at him, thinking, Come to think of it, I heard that when he fought Charlotte, he lasted even longer than Abajacker. Caracer observed him, assessing him internally. Even though they're both masters, Abajacker's skill level is a little higher, but his combat senses are so unpredictable that his opponents can't guess his next move. He frowned slightly. "Before I see Annexer, I want to fight this guy." As he looked into Balak, the Black Mage's eyes, he thought, but from the look in his eyes, it seems he won't give up easily. Caracer clenched his fist and replied, "Fine." Having received his agreement, the man immediately launched an attack at him. A second later, Caracer returned the blow, but the man easily flipped backward, dodging the attack. Caracer took a small step back. Immediately after, he leaped straight at Balak the Black Mage, his eyes incredibly sharp as he unleashed an attack. Ceracer slammed his fist hard into the man's stomach. The 1-inch punch. After the blow landed, the man clutched his stomach in pain. The fight was over. Ceracer let out a sharp breath. Balak the Black Mage held his stomach, reproaching Ceracer. "You're ruthless!" Ceracer rubbed his neck and replied, "You're the one who challenged me first." The man held out a hand and said, "Yeah, but wait, can I go get my weapon first?" He asked in surprise, "Weapon?" Ceracer said coldly, "More importantly, can you even stand?" Balak the Black Mage smiled, but blood was already trickling from his nose. A second later, he fainted. Seeing him collapse, Ceracer was a little surprised. Bianca asked Ceracer curiously, "What on earth did you do to him, my lord?" Ceracer replied coldly, "I used the Van Ham family's secret technique." He recalled the 1-inch punch from the past. A failure from the Van Ham clan had created this move. It's a special technique that delivers maximum damage over the shortest possible distance, he thought. Before I returned to the past, this was the only move that saved me when Lam Tung Cat was burning. Thanks to this 1-inch punch, I survived countless life-or-death situations. Returning to the present, Ceracer looked at his own hand and continued, "I used my strongest move, so he probably won't be getting up." For a moment, he stared at the unconscious Balak the Black Mage on the floor, then prompted, "Let's go inside." Bianca replied, "Yes, Sir Ceracer." The two of them pushed open the door. In front of them was a Nixer, along with a woman. When she saw Balak the Black Mage lying on the ground, she ran towards him. Annixer's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How amusing! To think you actually defeated Balak the Black Mage." Ceracer sighed and replied, "Whatever. You used the second princess just to lure me here, didn't you?" He pointed behind him, his voice cold. "Isn't that the reason you were standing by, waiting? Well, now I'm here." The man laughed, rubbing his chin. "How did you figure it out?" "Strange. You're different from what I heard. Perhaps the rumors were false?" Ceracer's voice was ice cold. "You're the one who spread the rumors that I'm a failure, aren't you?" He reached up to rub his shoulder. "However, if you lose to me today," he smiled, "then those rumors are about to change a little." Ceracer prepared his stance, his voice low, "Because I'm going to steal your skill." Ceracer crossed his arms, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "If the rumors say I'm a failure, then that's the truth. But if you're defeated by me today, I suppose those rumors will have to change a bit, won't they?" Annixer bowed his head, remaining silent. Ceracer observed him quietly. "Annix." Ceracer recalled images from the future. "You were an old friend of mine," he thought to himself. "We were together for so long. I know you all too well. You're asking if I'm trying to escape without a plan? For example, the truth is you were only my friend because I was useful to you," Crass muttered to himself, and that usefulness. A wave of bitterness rose in his chest. Again, with the worst possible reason for betraying me. Back then, at the edge of the cliff, he gripped the stone ledge. He looked down and swore softly, "Damn it. Is everyone down?" He called upwards, "Annixer, are you there? Help me!" Annixer, standing above, spoke. "Crass," he asked coldly, "if they find out it was my fault we fell into this trap, I'll definitely lose my place in the Azuz generation, won't I?" He continued, "But if I'm the only one who survives, then no one else will ever know." Crass yelled in fury. "Hey, you think it's that easy?" "The internal conflicts are already brutal enough. You'll definitely be kicked out because of this incident." A cunning smile spread across his face. Immediately after, Annixer burst out laughing. "It's fine. I'll just pin all the blame on you." He was incredibly pleased with himself. "Since everyone around you hates you, they'll believe my story. And just like that, the truth of this incident will be buried." He smiled. "Thanks, Crass, for being my friend. To the very end." Crass's eyes widened in disbelief. "Friends?" he questioned angrily. "Don't mess with me. Have you ever, even once, thought of me as a friend?" He glared at Annix with furious eyes. "You were only by my side from the beginning because you were chasing after Charlotte. And you've been dazed all day today just because Charlotte's getting married. That's why we're in this situation, isn't it?" Annixer's face darkened as he replied, "That's exactly why I hate you." His face was filled with disgust. "You have no talent, but your intuition is sharp, and you always try to undermine me. That part of you is what's truly at fault." He then turned and walked away. "Since Charlotte is getting married, this relationship ends here." Annixer raised a hand to his chin. But maybe this is for the best, huh?" He let out an amused laugh. "I'm sure Charlotte wouldn't want to hold a funeral at the same time as her wedding, right?" Hearing his words, Crass furiously cursed, "You piece of trash!" He couldn't hold on any longer and began to fall. With his last bit of strength, he mocked himself. "Is this really how I'm going to end?" Just then, Arthur grabbed his hand tightly and asked, "Are you all right?" Crass thought to himself, "And Arthur saved me then." His reason was that we were on the same team, even though that was the beginning of a new tragedy. He glanced at Annexer, thinking, anyway, after Annexer was kicked out of the generation, Azuze, thanks to Arthur's testimony, I was furious when he tried to marry the princess out of desperation. But what about now? Annexer let out a mocking laugh. Crass, your face and the way you talk, you're so much like Charlotte. Hearing this, Crass gritted his teeth in anger. This bastard hasn't changed at all. Crass clenched his fists, his voice filled with rage. Hey, don't say my sister's name so casually. You say I'm like her? He then unleashed his technique, lunging forward to attack. That's right, just like her. I'm the type who never backs down from a fight. Annexer calmly watched him. He rushed forward and threw a punch, but it was blocked by a tree branch. Crass pressed his hand on the branch. He spun in midair, then kicked off the branch. Suddenly, another branch shot out and wrapped tightly around his leg. It pulled him into the air and quickly swung him back towards Bianca. Crass landed on the ground, thinking to himself, as expected, what a pain. Annexer looked over at him, sneering. Is that all? You'd better use your weapon. Geyser family secret art. Heaven-shattering wood style. A special technique that uses aura to strengthen and control plants at will by using restorative skills to propagate the plants. One can compensate for the technique's limitations. Crass raised his hand, summoning his weapon. You want me to use my weapon? He stood up and pointed his staff at Annexer. Fine, I'll use your own wood against you. A vein throbbed on his forehead. Really now? He controlled the trees, sending them hurtling towards Crass. Then try blocking this with that twig of yours. He swiftly dodged Annexer's attacks. Seeing this, Annexer was shocked. He dodged it? His eyes, sharp as blades, were fixed on him. He smiled and said, To you, I'm basically your natural enemy. He thought to himself, because I saw through your abilities so many times before my regression that I'm sick of them. Then he rushed forward, calling his name, Alex. Crass growled, Are you thinking about Charlotte again? Alex let out a Shh. He replied coldly, It's because I was listening quietly. He raised his hand, summoning a monster made of wood. The pressure from it pushed Crass back. He growled, threatening, Crass, you should watch your mouth. Heaven-shattering wood style. Fifth form. Annexer raised his hand and unleashed his technique. Heaven and earth wood. Giant, he smiled wickedly. Be careful from now on. Suddenly, Magi burst in from the door, yelling, Lord Annexer, you can't do that! His eyes grew cold. If that blow had hit Crassus directly, the giant would have attacked him immediately. The consequences would have been irreversible. Crassus gently closed his eyes. Among the books in the secret library of Azure Pine Manor was the thinnest secret manual written by one of his ancestors. He had swung his sword continuously until he was 80. He wasn't talented, just a man who repeated the same mundane practice swings every day. The manual, written in his final years, was very short. It only recorded his practice swings. However, having been forced into similar situations countless times by the curse, he believed he had truly understood the manual. He silently recited the ancestors' teaching in his heart. The sword is me. I become the sword. He raised the staff into the air and then swung it down hard on the giant. He thought to himself, I just have to treat this as a sword. It was an incredibly simple truth. With a single blow, Crassus sliced the giant in two. Magi watched, completely stunned. Annexer couldn't hide his shock either. From within the smoke, Crassus spoke. He threw the staff to the ground. Don't ever be so arrogant again, he growled. Understand? Crassus cursed himself internally. Damn it! I was going to conserve just enough strength to easily steal his skill, but I poured everything into that one attack and now I can't even move. The effort had drained Crassus so much he was too breathless to speak. Bianca approached him, offering, Lord Crassus, let me help you. Seeing Bianca's method of helping, Darren quickly stepped in to save him. He's going to die at this rate, just leave him to me. Bianca handed Crassus over to him. I'm counting on you. The people present began to whisper among themselves. What's all the commotion? That failure. He actually beat Annexer. No way. The useless youngest son of the Vanham family? Darren had to admire their intel network. Good grief. Rumors spread like wildfire. He looked at the bruised and battered Crassus, thinking, I didn't expect word to get around this fast. This kid's going to be a star when he wakes up. But then Darren noticed something odd. Wait a minute. He was bothered by that expression. Annexer's expression from before. It's making me uneasy. Darren muttered to himself. I have a really bad feeling something's about to happen. He then spoke to the unconscious Crassus. Hey, kid, you're not allowed to die until we've done our joint research, you hear me? Got it? Meanwhile, Crassus was training. A week had passed since he returned from the Holy Estelle, and he could finally rest a little easier. I finally recovered from that day's battle. Crassus recalled the fight. If I'd kept pressing him to the end, I might have been in worse shape than an Ixer. He collapsed right onto Bianca's lap, and I passed out in the carriage. Crassus felt a twinge of regret. If only I hadn't fainted then. At least I would have had time to prepare to steal his skill. Crassus sank into thought. I have 2 ways to steal a skill. One is the standard method, opening the black hat. The second is making the opponent underestimate their own skill. With Annexer, I intended to use the second method. It's easier to pull off if you completely overwhelm the target, since his heaven and earth wooden giant was taken down in 1 hit. So Annexer's doubts about his skill are bound to spread, especially after being defeated by a failure he looked down upon. He'll start to question the value of his own skill. Crassus was confident. It may take a while, but Annexer's recovery skill will be mine in the end. He made a plan for himself. Therefore, in the year I have left before the academy, I'll spend every single day training to surpass those so-called geniuses. But just then, a Jord entered. "Young Master Crassus," he informed him, "Sir Belokan has arrived at Azure Pine Manor." Crassus laughed. "Guess Belokan finally ran out of patience, huh?" A Jord added, "I've already turned away his messages 22 times. We can't put it off anymore." Grumpily, Crassus relented. "Show him in." "As you command." He quickly complied. Bianca approached with a glass of water. "Have a drink, my lord." He took it. "Ah, thank you." Noticing she seemed to be keeping her distance, Crassus asked, "Is something wrong?" Bianca answered frankly, You smell of sweat, my lord." Crassus hadn't even realized it. "Huh? Seriously?" He quickly pulled up his shirt to check. "It must be the waste discharged from using my aura, but I can't smell a thing." Crassus wondered, or maybe my nose has gone numb because I'm used to the smell of erosion? Bianca suddenly asked, "Aren't you going to take a bath before meeting Sir Belokan?" Crassus refused. "Nah, I'm just going to keep training anyway." Hearing that, Bianca moved farther away. "Then stay away from me!" Crassus was taken aback. Are you ordering your fiancé around now?" he said, slightly miffed. "You've really gotten bold, Bianca." Crassus playfully threatened her. "Where do you think you can run?" Seeing her scamper away in fright, he laughed. In his heart, he always thought of Bianca as a cherished little sister. That's why I can't help but tease her. His thoughts suddenly shifted. The people I knew before I returned to the past. Crassus was certain. They must be looking down on me with such cold eyes. Arthur's voice echoed in his mind. "Crassus, have you gone soft living this peaceful life? And you think you can prevent the world's destruction?" At those words, Crassus froze. Arthur. He fell deep into thought. I hate to admit it. But except for that very last moment, he was always a hero at the forefront, never once letting his guard down. Crassus wondered about him. "By the way, where is Arthur now?" "What's he up to?" Biukin cut in. "Are you trying to flirt with my fiancé?" Veins popped on his face in anger. "Having a good time, are we, Belokan Vanham? Third son of the Vanham family." Sidas retorted, not backing down. "Everyone needs to relax, you know." In Belokan's mind, he saw Sidas differently. The one who used to be so afraid of me he couldn't even look me in the eye is now staring me down like this. He immediately wondered, could the rumor that he defeated Annexer be true? Sidas walked closer to inquire. "You're such a busy man, yet you have the free time to come to the Lamtung Pavilion?" He repeated, confused. "Busy?" Sidas recounted what he knew. "I heard that admission to the Laelni Academy is based on an exam, regardless of one's status." Sidas smiled brightly as he reminded him, "So you should be preparing for it, shouldn't you?" His brother, Biukin, felt a wave of irritation course through his body. Is this brat provoking me? In his mind, he was second to none. Even the most powerful empire didn't dare attack the Sertalon kingdom because of the Vanham family. The Vanham family was on a whole other level, completely different from other families. And me, a true member of the Vanham family, from the direct bloodline, no less. Belokan felt utterly disrespected. And yet he dares to tell me to prepare for an academy entrance exam. "Ha, don't get cocky just because you managed to take down someone like Annexer," he said, forcing a smile. "You're kidding, right?" Biukin replied cryptically, "Well, it's understandable. Of course, failures like you would be worried about passing or failing the academy exam, but you don't seem concerned at all." I suppose so. That attitude only infuriated Biukin more. What's with that tone? He calmed himself. "Actually, I came here today to deliver an order." Hades was surprised. "An order?" Belokan continued, "We are going to stop the world erosion occurring at Mount Golek." Sidas couldn't believe it. "What?" he retorted. "Family missions aren't mandatory for members under the age of 15. Belokan's words were reassuring, but his eyes were anything but friendly. "Don't worry, I'll accompany you as your guardian. My little brother, the one who supposedly defeated Annexer? Surely you aren't afraid of something as trivial as this, are you?" "He's just trying to test my strength and put me in my place." Sidas agreed without hesitation. "Fine, if we're going, we're going." Sidiaz was completely unfazed. He even thought calmly to himself, I'm more accustomed to world erosion than to this peaceful life. Whether this is Belokin's trap or not, I already have a plan to deal with it. Bianca approached Kidas and asked, Where are you going, my lord? Diaz summarized, I'll be away for a while to handle some erosion. Don't follow me. She wanted to go with him. Am I not allowed to come with you? Bianca bluntly exposed the absurdity of the situation. A 13-year-old being sent to stop world erosion sounds ridiculous. Biukin fumed at being contradicted by Bianca. This cursed princess, Diaz shielded her. She is my fiancée. Surely a magnanimous older brother like yourself wouldn't take the words of a 12-year-old seriously, would you? Biukin was seen clutching his stomach as he left in a rage. Diaz patted Bianca's head, praising her. Well done, Bianca. She replied shyly, I didn't do anything. You did. You just don't realize it. She gave Cetus a serious warning. Please don't fall again. Cetus turned his back and left triumphantly. Yeah, I'm off. The changes in the world are, more or less, all related to world erosion. World erosion is a phenomenon where our world is encroached upon by another. Sometimes eroded creatures appear, or the environment undergoes abnormal changes. If the erosion progresses far enough, the area will completely transform into another world. Belokin and Cetus had arrived at the location. So a swamp has formed on Mount Rizola. He asked for information. It's been classified as a level 3 erosion, correct? What did the purification squad say? The person beside him replied, They said they'll begin their work as soon as the master has been eliminated. Hearing this, Kidas assessed the mission. Level 3, huh? This is a level that a mid-tier professional knight squad could handle with ease. He had to admit, Biukin might not look like much, but he's a high-tier professional. He can definitely defeat the master of this erosion zone. Biukin approached him. Kidas quickly responded, Yes? He spoke with a patronizing tone as if bestowing a blessing. I brought you here so that a low-tier expert like yourself could gain some experience. Diaz played along with Biukin's act. Okay, brother. But inside, he was already looking down on him. Experience? Who do you think you're talking to? He had his own reasons for coming. The only reason I followed you, a man who just wants to order me around, was for one single thing Cetus had wanted to do for a long time, to test a temporary solution for my frenzy. The members of the squad were panting from exhaustion. Damn it! At this rate, we'll never wipe them all out. Hey, look over there! Cetus kindly warned them. This monster has no head, but it's covered in teeth. If it bites you, the wound will swell up, so remember to completely cover your body with your aura. They immediately complied. Yes, sir! One of the group members expressed his admiration. Sir Cetus, have you experienced world erosion before? Cetus waved his hand dismissively. I'm only 13 years old. For me to have a chance to access a corroded zone, wouldn't that be too strange? He had to agree, but Belokin felt irritated seeing Sarah so calm. But why was a failure like him so composed in the corroded zone, especially when it's his first time here? He recalled his own past. The first time he came here, he was 15 years old, and as a result, his pride was utterly crushed. Belokin was jealous of Sarah. He's surrounded by everyone, so how can he so casually give advice to the knights like that? It was a complete contrast to his own first time. Sarah looked up, his gaze challenging. Belokin gritted his teeth in jealousy, then turned and walked away. Belokin was speculating about many things. This is all just a hypothesis. He felt a sense of dread. What if Sarah grew up like Father Lotte and surpassed him? Belokin was terrified of that future. Will I become the failure of the Van Ham family? Sarah approached him. Brother, he kindly reminded him, we're about to reach the Overlord's dwelling. Belokin composed himself and immediately dismissed the boy's abilities. You're lucky. This time seems easier than my first time. It looks like there are no other corroded creatures here besides the Overlord. Sarah replied seriously. That's all the more reason to be on high alert, sir. He emphasized the level of danger. Meaning this is a 3-star Overlord. It's strong enough to maintain the corroded zone by itself. Belokin yelled to the others, Hey, don't let him shake you. It's just the words of a child. He spoke loudly to reassure them. This place is only a 3-star zone. Let's finish this quickly and get back. Everyone followed his lead. Yes, sir. Sarah sighed at the situation. They'll find out for themselves. He ignored them and focused on his own task. I should focus on what I need to do. Sarah's keen senses picked up on something. I can feel it now. The world's corrosion energy. He assessed it internally. It's even clearer than before I regressed in time. It's thanks to the poison mastery that has seeped into my blood. He took out an item. Now I just need to swallow it. Sarah immediately felt his heart pounding fast. It was time to act. His eyes flew open in shock. The next second, Sarah coughed up blood. Seeing him vomit blood, everyone ran over in concern. Sir Sarah, are you all right? Sarah quickly reassured them. Ugh, I just tripped. Seeing this, Belokin offered, It's your first time, so don't push yourself. I'll carry you. Sarah immediately refused. No need. Coughing up blood from just a little exertion. He quickly figured it out. The world's corrosion energy is like a potent poison, so this kind of reaction is to be expected. He steeled his resolve, but I have no other choice but to endure it. Isn't this the reason I trained with potent poison until it seeped into my blood? He focused his mind. First, according to the secret art of blood-infused poison, I must try to mix my aura with the corrosion energy. The aura will then circulate without rest. Sarah contemplated it himself. If the stream of aura is like a great river that absorbs the corrosion energy, it will eventually merge with that river, creating a new, indelible color. This is the result of the frenzy. He quickly realized, normally, I wouldn't be able to withstand this. Sarah seized the moment. The time has come to use that secret art. Old stories came to mind. After Magister Van Ham disappeared, the Lamtong Pavilion was closed and seemed to fall into oblivion. A vague image appeared, but one day, a blind ancestor discovered a secret archive. He lamented that his blindness prevented him from reading the secret arts. The swirling threads of the story continued. From then on, he was forced to lock the archive's door forever. But to prevent anyone from repeating his tragedy, that person wrote down his final memoirs. He decided to leave behind a secret art, and in the end he created a masterpiece. The name of that secret art is... A change occurred within Sarah's body. A superhuman sense that could feel every vibration through his aura, the sixth sense. Kara could feel it very well. Right now, I can only extend its sensory range to about a fingertip's length, but even that is enough to determine my own position. He smiled confidently. The place where I'm standing isn't a world engulfed by the frenzy. Sarah panted, exhausted. The frenzy is thinning. I've overcome it. By following the secret art of the sixth sense... Kara also quickly realized, of course, this is only a temporary solution. If I absorb the world's corrosion energy, the frenzy could strike again at any moment. He considered the future clearly. At that point, I'll still need Bianca's snowdoll curse. Sarah couldn't stop his excitement. But even if this is just a patchwork solution, there's no denying that I've gained control, thanks to it. He was happy, as this was the first time he had been able to advance to a new level. Suddenly, he shuddered. No way. As soon as Kara turned his head, a monster appeared. It had its eyes closed in rest. The next second, the monster's two crimson eyes shot open. Everyone was stunned by its size. Everyone screamed, "It's the Overlord monster!" It opened its disgusting maw. Belokin was horrified by the sight. Krasis was no exception. Everyone recognized the thousand-faced demon. "Everyone on your guard! Prepare for battle!" Belokin commanded, tightening his grip on his sword's hilt. The very air seemed to constrict as all sound faded away. The sword in his hand emitted a blue glow, then suddenly, a brilliant crimson light erupted violently from its pommel. The flames quickly engulfed the entire blade. Witnessing this, Krasis was stunned. "Lord Belokin's Ignis flame. It's always so breathtaking." A soldier couldn't hide his admiration. Not only that, its destructive power is terrifying, isn't it? After all, it's a supreme skill that can incinerate anything in its path. He pressed his lips together tightly, a single name echoing in his mind. Ignis. Old memories came flooding back. This was the skill that had burned his arm off before. "Do you see the difference between us now, huh? I have no time to waste on scum like you." The fierce image of Belokin from the past resurfaced clearly in his mind. "Before I turned back time, you were completely insane. Right now, Belokin is glowing with that brilliant red light. But what's different this time?" A grotesque, smiling mouth appeared in Krasis's palm. "I hope you haven't changed a bit." In the blink of an eye, a soldier's face was peeled away. Alex, in the middle of combat, was also stunned. "The face-stealing curse?" His eyes darted across the battlefield. Even the senior knights are struggling against it. "Look at its arms. How are apprentices like us supposed to avoid that curse?" Alex gripped his trembling sword tightly. "If it's come to this, then the only option left is to run." Belokin's voice thundered, "Attack!" His sword sliced through the air, rushing straight towards the thousand-faced demon at that very moment. The thousand-faced demon shrieked as if to tear space apart, its whole body erupting in violent flames. He raised his sword high and shouted, "Don't give up! I will forge a path!" The knights stared up at the spectacle. Frozen for a moment, they then roared in unison, "That's Lord Belokin for you! Not even the Guardians can resist him!" "We'll follow you, Lord Belokin." Belokin glanced behind him. "Krasis, are you witnessing this?" But the person he was looking for was nowhere to be seen. "He's not here." "Don't tell me he's already dead." Hiding behind a rock, Krasis thought in astonishment. "He's going after the thousand-faced demon instead of me?" His gaze fixed on the thousand-faced demon, which was writhing in agony. Belokin suddenly froze. "Tears of blood?" The overlapping faces on the demon's body began to ooze dark red streaks. He stared straight into its eyes and realized something was wrong. Belokan's eyes widened. This is getting dangerous. Without a moment's hesitation, Belokan leaped high into the air, putting distance between them. He clenched his teeth, looking down below. What is this terrifying pressure? Belokan gripped his sword tightly, forcing himself to concentrate. I have to focus. I have to destroy the thousand-faced demon right now before anything stranger happens. He gave a clear command. All knights, take down the thousand-faced demon. But Belokan quickly noticed something was wrong. My attack was imbued with my aura. How was it still ineffective against it? Knights, listen up. Launch the next attack before it transforms again. Suddenly, he froze, stopping mid-motion. His eyes scanned the ranks behind him, and he roared in anger. How can the Knights of House Vanham be cowering before a thing like this? But the only response was the sight of his men standing motionless, like statues. Just what in the hell are you? Shock was clear in Belokan's eyes. The thousand-faced demon's curse? But I haven't even touched it! Abruptly, a hand seized his face. Could it be that weird sensation? And was it getting a hold of me even back then? The thousand-faced demon drew close, staring intently at Belokan. At that moment, thunder cracked and the sky unleashed a downpour. He panicked, raising a hand to cover his missing eye. He muttered, "This is bad. This is really bad." Belokan's legs were frozen solid, unable to move. I'm going to be killed. The ground beneath his feet turned into a swamp, slowly swallowing him. At this rate, I'm done for. It raised a gaunt hand as a thick purple aura emanated from it. The swamp rose to his neck, filling Belokan with terror. Why is this happening to me? Lightning tore across the sky as a horrifying thought entered his mind. Death? He couldn't believe it, muttering, Me, the strongest of House Vanham, is going to die? Just then, Charlotte appeared right beside his ear. She whispered, You are such an idiot. Disappointment was written all over her face. Surpassed by your sister, 3 years younger than you, and after all your boasting, you lost the entire Knight Squad. And now you're trying to run away just to save your own life? What a fool. Charlotte delivered her final verdict. Because you failed so miserably, you deserve to die. The thousand-faced demon immediately lunged after Belokan. He raised his hand to block the attack, but only a piercing scream echoed through the air. At that very moment, Krasis appeared, grabbed Belokan by the legs, and dragged him away. He opened his eyes, his voice trembling. Who are you? When he got a clear look at the face before him, Belokan was stunned. Krasis, why are you here? He gave a relieved smile. You're awake. Belokan raised an eyebrow skeptically and asked him, You're still alive? Kraz answered quickly, Yeah, I've been watching everything from afar this whole time, he began to explain. When I saw you being swallowed by the swamp, after the thousand-faced demon's attack, I avoided its gaze and pulled you right out of there. He struggled to sit up. Then I'm fine. I can walk on my own. Belokan looked at Kraz in surprise. With a body that can't even use aura? Kraz squatted down, holding out the sword with both hands, asking, Are you sure you don't need to lean on me? He gritted his teeth against the pain, then decisively snatched the sword. We don't need help from a fool like you. Suddenly a sound echoed out and Belokan flinched in alarm. He quickly asked, Is the thousand-faced demon still nearby? Hey, how far are we from the scene? He shook his head and stood up. Who knows? After a moment of thought, Kraz continued, We've been walking for quite a while, but we still haven't found a way out. Perhaps this world erosion is a closed space. Hearing these words, he couldn't help but shudder. You mean we can't leave? Not unless we defeat the thousand-faced demon? Belokan lowered his head and cursed. Damn it! Kraz spoke up. Hey, brother. His voice was calm and steady. Actually, I have a secret technique. It's something Charlotte passed down to me. Kraz raised a hand, explaining seriously. The reason I could stand against Annex at the Sanctum of Stars was thanks to this very technique. He looked up at him. A secret technique from Charlotte? Belokan was lost in thought. Even someone like Charlotte had a soft spot for her little brother, huh? Does that thing really have feelings? He spoke, unable to hide his hesitation. And you think we can defeat the thousand-faced demon with that technique? We can, Kraz replied decisively. Recalling what had just happened, Kraz said, Instead of hiding from the thousand-faced demon and wasting away in this erosion zone, I think this is worth a shot. He held his hand out to Belokan. I know you don't trust me, Kraz said persuasively, but brother, surely you trust her skills, right? He planted the tip of his sword in the ground and replied softly, Yeah, Charlotte was a genius after all. Suddenly, Belokan shouted, But if we fail, we're both dead, you brat! From behind him, Kraz replied with a slight smirk, Don't you worry. I absolutely will not fail. In a forest where rain poured down violently and tree trunks bent in the strong wind, Kraz looked up at Belokan and lowered his voice. The thousand-faced demon is approaching. He asked, "Brother Belokin, are you ready to use Ignis?" Flames erupted in his hand as he replied, "Yeah." Hearing that, Kraz continued, "Then let's begin." His footsteps stopped. Gripping his sword with both hands, he held it horizontally before his chest as his entire body began to glow with a blue light. Kraz closed his eyes tightly. Belokin watched, his face filled with unconcealed astonishment. Streams of light were continuously absorbed by the sword. What? Such incredible focus! Belokin's gaze wavered, and that aura surrounding it. He stared at the sword, stunned, realizing he had never seen an aura so transparent and pure. He bowed his head, thinking, when he told me to combine my flame, that Ignis with Charlotte's secret art? I didn't believe him. But now I see it with my own eyes. The aura that I could never master despite all my years of harsh training. How can he use it so easily? Cross's voice broke the silence. "Belokin, use your Ignis!" Belokin unleashed the flame in his hand. "All right!" The fire slowly flowed into Kraz's sword. In an instant, Kraz's entire body was engulfed in the crimson glow of flames. He looked at the flaming sword as if he had discovered something. Kraz called out to him, "Brother!" Confused, he asked, "Is something wrong?" He shook his head slightly. "No, don't worry about it. It looks like I'll make it in time. I don't need your support anymore." Belokin dropped to one knee, exclaiming, "What?" His eyes widened. Kraz's flame was even more intense than his own. The sword in Kraz's hand burned brighter and brighter. Belokin thought, that sword, it really could kill the thousand-faced demon now. He was lost in thought. In the blink of an eye, I lost all my subordinates. I was lucky to survive that battle and had to flee in disgrace while all the knights from Fort Bell. Oaken had a thought. If Kraz really defeats the thousand-faced demon, then watching him charge in alone to fight it, does that make me even worse than a failure? In a single blow, he cleaved the thousand-faced demon in two. Belokin stood motionless, his face frozen. The demon was consumed by a sea of flames. The sky began to clear and the rain stopped falling. Kraz called out, "Brother!" He turned to look at him, his voice confident. "I've taken care of it." Belokin clenched his jaw in fury. "It was that easy?" He raised the sword in his hand, his face twisted with resentment. "Then you can just die!" The sword lunged forward, but Kraz calmly parried it. Belokin was stunned, unable to believe what he was seeing. His sword hand trembled. Why can't I use Ignis?" Kraz smiled as if his goal was achieved. "Thanks." A terrifying look appeared on Kraz's face. "It's because you haven't changed at all, Belokin." Kraz recalled a memory from his past. Belokin's unlock condition is very simple. First, voluntarily give a portion of your Ignizer to your opponent. Second, believe that your opponent can master the Ignizer better than you can. Seeing the terrified look on Belokin's face, and finally, the collapse of his pride, Krasis swung his sword and cut him down. The moment I swung my sword, the Ignizer was mine. The thousand-faced demon, burned to a crisp, appeared from the thick smoke. He stabbed his sword into the piece of flesh on the ground, called out to Belokin, and held it up to his face. "I wanted to get along with you and everyone else, too." Krasis recounted stories from their childhood, "but you always said, stay out of what doesn't concern you." An image of him scowling, rebuking him. "You can't do anything." But he wanted to thank him. "It was your intense hostility that blocked every opportunity I had." Krasis shoved the still warm piece of flesh into Belokin's mouth. "Even so, I still thought, just this one time, you would finally accept me as a true younger brother." He showed no emotion. "After all, I still held on to a faint hope, that because we're brothers, this time they would finally acknowledge me. But it turns out you never thought that way at all." His breathing was shallow. Krasis's tone was cold. "It hurts, doesn't it?" Every word he spoke reminded Belokin of the past. "When you burned my arm and face that year, I writhed on the ground in agony just like you are now." Belokin's legs thrashed violently, but after a moment they stopped moving. Krasis looked up at the blue sky and sighed, his voice low and laced with irony. "How shameless. And for the day to be this beautiful." Inside the castle, a voice rang out. "Lord Belokin's entire squad has been wiped out?" At the main Van Ham estate, a man spoke. "The erosion has been reclassified as a 5-star level. They say it will take a high-ranking specialist to suppress it." Another person added, "If Lord Belokin hadn't sacrificed himself, Lord Krasis wouldn't have survived." A servant couldn't hold back her tears, questioning, "What does that mean? Only that failure survived?" The butler immediately warned, "Watch your mouth, you servant." The butler glanced over, his voice steady. "Lord Belokin died to protect his younger brother. Let us honor his noble sacrifice." The head butler of Van Ham then gently patted the servant's shoulder, his voice softening. "Don't let Lord Belokin's noble death be in vain." Krasis heard every single word. He thought to himself, they believe the testimony, so I don't have to worry about being suspected. He put both hands in his pockets and quietly walked away. Thanks to Belican, this mission yielded great results. I've completely adapted to the blood-soaked extreme poison, and I've also confirmed that, the sixth sense can somewhat control the frenzy. And through the Egnicer, a purple flame erupted on his hand. I have obtained the black flame Egnicer, which can incinerate anything. He clenched his fist, the corner of his lip curling up slightly. So, by touching the essence of the world erosion, this is the result. The black flame is stronger than I expected. It's a perfect trump card. The color looks vicious, but other people can't see it, so it's fine. Now, the only problem left at the main estate is... Krasis stopped in front of a room and raised his hand to knock. The problem I have to deal with in the main family is the investigation into the phenomenon, the anomaly in the eroded lands. From inside, a voice called out, "Come in." He was still lost in thought. The cause has yet to be clarified, Krasis mused endlessly. When the truth is that it's the work of the world invaders. Its true body is sleeping in an eternal dream and can only observe reality through its underlings. An immortal. He opened the door and stepped inside. The fact that they've started to move means I could run into that immortal's subordinates at any moment. Hearing the noise, Esethira spoke up. "Lord Krasis has arrived." Her voice was monotone. "We were waiting for you." Esethira, 4th rank investigator of the Erosion Survey Bureau. His eyes stopped at Esethira's neck for a moment. Krasis wavered slightly. "The black star on her body is..." He ran a hand through his hair and chuckled. "I didn't expect we'd meet again so soon." She uttered, confused. "Huh?" Krasis's voice suddenly turned serious and clear. "Listen here, immortal. I want to negotiate with you." He pointed a finger straight at Esethira. "I will erase your immortality." For a split second, the corner of her lips curled up. "Tell me, you're a regressor, aren't you?" Esethira's eyes suddenly blazed a sinister, brilliant red. "I was searching for a different destination, but it seems fate has sent me to the wrong place. In a place where a body is sealed, the immortal garden. Although the body is intact, there are no signs of consciousness. Before I turned back time under Athu's command, I tried to steal his immortality, but that attempt failed miserably." Athu held my arm. "Now, with this, the immortal only has enough strength to maintain his regenerative ability. He has no power left to control his subordinates." Maji's gaze was a little melancholic. "So the reason he commands so many minions is because his real body is cursed and cannot move. It sounds so pitiful, doesn't it?" Sika disagreed. "Pitiful? Have you forgotten that he's the one who caused the erosion zones to level up and unleashed hell upon us?" She strode forward and pointed directly at Magi. "Stop pretending to be so noble." "Sir Sika, that is not what I meant." Lilith clasped her hands. "In any case, the problem with the immortal is over. There will be no more meaningless battles." A small figure was reflected in her eyes. "But what a pity." Her attention shifted to another person. "You still couldn't steal his immortality, could you?" Krasis was hesitant. It's true. His eyes avoided hers. "Even if I were reborn, it would still be impossible. Those bone chains aren't easy to deal with, because I can't possibly meet the conditions to unlock them." Returning to reality, Saphira's cold voice reached me. "Tell me, you're a regressor, aren't you?" She was like the embodiment of the devil, and here I was, looking for a different path. Krasis looked seriously at Saphira. "A regressor? What makes you think I'm a regressor?" She gave a cold smile. "The moment a child dares to propose a deal with someone like me, you've already exposed yourself. Only a regressor would dare do such a thing." The claws on her hand grew sharp. "You're trapped in your own endless loop, yet you dare to declare you'll kill me? Someone who transcends time itself? Don't make me laugh with such blatant lies." Of course, he wouldn't let himself be intimidated. "This isn't a lie." He reached out his hand to confront her directly. "Because of my skill, the mouth from Krasis's palm rushes out at my call, circling Saphira. I can even steal your immortality." Saphira's clenched fist trembled. Facing him, she said, "I have upgraded every erosion zone for centuries just to find someone strong enough to kill me. And now you, who have the ability to steal the curse of immortality, are finally standing before me." At this, she finally spoke. "What are your conditions?" Krasis was blunt. "Help me become stronger. My skill only activates when I'm stronger than you." Saphira maintained her sinister smile. "In that case, I'll take you as my disciple. If it helps me escape this immortality, I'm willing to sell my soul to you." Her eyes gleamed as he answered, "All right." Immediately, Saphira revealed her power. "I, Saphira Garden August, will make you the strongest." A strong wind forced Krasis to shield himself with both hands. Her aura alone, even just as a projection, was completely overwhelming. Saphira Garden once possessed power on par with Athu and commanded countless subordinates. Thanks to her, I can become even stronger. His hands trembled. Even if I have to borrow the power of an invader of Earth, I will protect this world. From the erosion and from the brink of destruction. From what Krasis knew, her skill was a unique power, second to none in the world. According to the rules, Athu's regression skill has returned to her hands in this lifetime. That means I can no longer turn back time on my own. If this world is destroyed again in this era, I will disappear along with it. He struggled to extend his hand to her. I'm glad to have you with me, Saphira. Her pupils trembled. Saphira still wore that eerie smile. She directly patted him on the head. Call me master. With that matter settled, Krasis didn't intend to linger any longer. All right, now I can leave this place. Saphira was surprised. You don't live here? Krasis replied calmly. I haven't set foot here in many years. Then he added, I've almost forgotten what my own parents look like. Elsewhere. The Vanham residence, main hall. A girl appeared before Krasis. The matron requests your presence. He was puzzled. Mother wants to see me? She didn't even show up when I was at the Lamtung Pavilion. Perhaps she heard the rumors that I've changed and got curious. The messenger replied, that is correct. And there's more. She delivered another piece of shocking news to him. The Patriarch said that after he returns from the Forbidden Zone, he wishes to see you privately. Krasis was genuinely startled. Father wants to see me? The man, as far as he knew, had reached the realm of a demigod. Maybe he sensed something from me through the stars. But that wasn't all. Lady Asia requests that you remain at the main residence until then. However, Krasis was not an idle person. But Bianca is waiting for me, and I have a ton of things to do. I don't have time to waste in this place. He asked again, so this isn't a direct order from my father, is it? Without waiting for an answer, he said, in that case, I'll be leaving first. This attitude caught the girl off guard. What? Krasis just walked past her. I'll return when my father summons me. Behind a glass window, a woman had been watching all along. Or perhaps, the carriage left the main residence. He will find me. In the relatively deserted and quiet city, the carriage moved towards a secluded hill. Krasis stretched. Finally escaped from that place. I don't plan on going back there anytime soon. Suddenly, a beak tapped on the window. Show some respect, you impudent disciple. Open the door. He jumped, shouting, Saphira! Don't you think a color as deep red as that is a bit too conspicuous? Hearing this, she immediately turned black. Don't worry, I can change color anytime. See, now I look just like a crow. See? Saphira took the chance to mock him. Now I'm as pitch black as your soul. Inside, Krasis resolved. I have to get your curse soon. Nevertheless, he asked out of curiosity, what about your main abilities? As a jet black bird, nonchalantly preening my feathers. You know I can't move my real body, right? And yet you still touch a sore spot. What a petty regressor. Hearing that, a different figure appeared in Crasher's mind. In reality, Athu was the real one who had turned back time. I only borrowed his skills. At best, I'm a pale imitation. But there's no need to explain any of this to Esset Hira. As dusk fell, the carriage came to a stop. But before going inside, he didn't forget a reminder. Oh, and hey, there's a white-haired girl in the Lamtung Pavilion. You are to treat her kindly, you hear me? An adorable duck hat appeared. The girl Bianca approached while holding a book. Welcome back, Sir Crasher. He quickly said, See? I told you I'd be back. Ajord hurried over to Crasher. Seeing this, Crasher asked, Ajord, did anything happen while I was away? He immediately reported, Sir, a letter has arrived from Sir Dallin. In the letter, I've completed the cure for the discoloration disease you requested. It almost formed automatically in my head whenever I thought of you. I'll deliver it soon. A lipstick kiss on the paper. It really leaves you speechless. They do say geniuses are often eccentric. He handed the letter back to Ajord. When Dallin arrives, treat him with the utmost care. He will be your benefactor. He took it. Understood, sir. Then he leaned in close to Crasher's ear. By the way, Lady Bianca was very worried about you. He was surprised. Bianca? Ajord recounted. Yes. When she heard you were caught in the erosion zone, she immediately prepared a carriage, intending to go to the main residence to see you herself. And she was even going to travel to the main residence on her own. Crasher's eyebrows furrowed slightly. A hand was extended right after. It's been a while since I checked the seal on Bianca. Could it be from contact with my energy? The information panel appeared. First unlock condition. First unlock. Become Bianca's friend. To Crasher's utter astonishment, Condition 1 has been met. Bianca's first seal has been released. Just like that. Condition 1 has been met. Bianca's first seal has been released. And just like that, Crasher stood there dumbfounded, staring at Bianca. This made her confused and curious. Is there something on my face? Hearing that, Crasher answered awkwardly, No, I just wanted to introduce you to a new friend. His name is Kajim. Instantly, Kajim, who was proudly spreading his wings, was snatched by Bianca. She immediately hugged the crow tightly to her chest and said, "Kajim? He's as soft as whipped cream." Her reaction surprised Crasher a little. "So you like animals too, Bianca?" At that moment, he thought to himself, "By the way, how do I unlock the second seal?" Just then, the notification panel appeared again. Second unlock condition, become Bianca's friend. It was indeed quite surprising that the two unlock conditions were exactly the same. Crasher pondered to himself, usually, when you talk about an important person, everyone imagines their parents, children, friends, or a lover. At this, Crasher stroked his chin thoughtfully. Technically, I'm her fiancé, so lover is probably the most likely option. At the same time, after hugging Kajim until his feathers were all ruffled, Bianca finally let him go. Her eyes followed the little black bird intently, but her face still showed no trace of emotion. Crasher's thoughts continued to churn. But become the lover of the emotionless Bianca? The conditions weren't like this before I regressed. Besides, on the inside, I'm an adult. Hitting on a 12-year-old is a bit of a problem. Just then, Kajim also whispered in his ear, "Looks like that pale girl has taken a liking to you. She can't take her eyes off you." Crasher retorted, "She's looking at you, you know." The sunset grew deeper. Just then, Kajim said again, "Anyway, Crasher, huh? What is it?" Kajim tilted his head up and declared, "I want to test your strength. Playtime is over. Get to the training grounds. Now." These words left Crasher a bit stunned. Still, he agreed. All right, not long after. Crasher was sprawled on the ground, panting non-stop. Kajim looked down at him and spoke with contempt. "How pathetic. I never expected a regressor to have such trashy talent." Lying on the ground, Crasher admitted, "I told you so. I'm genuinely useless." Unexpectedly, Kajim cut him off. "Right now, you've only managed to crawl this far, thanks to your past life's experience and your little secret arts. But that effort will be surpassed by a true genius in less than 5 years. However, that's only true if we're talking about pure, innate talent. Otherwise, in my presence, talent means nothing," Kajim continued to explain. "Because you have my skill, right? If you lack talent, then just steal it from everyone else. You who have never escaped the muck at the bottom of the pecking order, I will be the one to pull you up. You will seize everything from a place higher than the heavens themselves. And in the end, you'll even steal my immortality." After hearing these words from Kajim, Crasher's hand clenched unconsciously. Looking out the window, he replied softly, "That goes without saying." A few days later, Deline finally found his way to Crasher's residence. He ran up cheerfully, calling out, Hey, did I keep you waiting long, cutie?" Crasher didn't seem to care in the slightest about his arrival. He continued his sword practice and replied, "Since when did I become your cutie?" Hearing this, Deline became even more excited, exclaiming, "Ooh, so cold!" Before he could say anything more, Crasher glanced at him and asked, "Hey, did you bring the thing I asked for?" Dalin reached into his pocket, fumbling for something. He then took out a small glass vial containing something that looked like a preserved plum and said, "Ta-da, it's done. What do you think? I'm a genius, right?" Staring intently at the vial, Crasher replied, "Is there even a need to ask? That's a given. You've always been a genius." Dalin's face immediately flushed red with embarrassment. He lunged forward and hugged Crasher tightly, whispering, "Oh my, I love you so much." This action made Crasher jump in surprise and yell, model, Hey, let go! No sword fighting, you hear?" And so, as the two of them struggled, another conversation began. Dalin spoke up. "Oh, right. I wanted to tell you something. I heard Annex has changed." Crass, confused, asked, "Annex?" Deline replied, "He stopped training after losing to Charlotte, but I heard he started up again after the incident at the Star Sanctuary." Hearing this, Crass felt a sense of helpless frustration. He clutched his head, thinking, that traitor. Is he really using me as his motivation? Then he said to Deline, "Damn it, just forget about that Annex guy. Your business is done, so you can piss off too. What are you even doing here?" Just then, Kojim spoke up from a nearby tree branch. "But Stallone has other plans besides Vanham. But that's fine. I was planning on using Alicia to strengthen that weak body of yours anyway. I'll just have the alchemist whip up a few vials for you. A special potion that increases physical stats and stamina. Alicia is an incredibly expensive medicine, and sometimes its brewing techniques are secret, passed down only through family bloodlines." Crass thought to himself, Elysia was only for a select few. Back then, something like this was completely out of my reach. He saw Daline getting closer, trying to get all touchy-feely. He got angry and roared, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? I already said no sword fighting." Kojim then added, "I know the formula, just tell him what to do." Then Crass said to Daline, "There's one more thing I need to ask of you." Hearing this, the man looked puzzled and asked, "A minute ago, you were trying to get rid of me." And then Crass leaned in close and whispered, I want you to make me a vial of Alicia." Hearing this, Deline was extremely surprised and exclaimed, "Huh? Why all of a sudden? Did the news about Annex get you all fired up? But can you even afford the ingredients? Vanham isn't going to back you up, right?" Crass immediately replied, "Don't worry, I'll manage it myself." In his mind, he thought, "I can still do this, if I use my knowledge from before I regressed." Just then, Kojim cut in, "Just repeat after me." Crass went along with it and repeated, "The ingredients for Alicia are..." And just like that, he rattled everything off to Daleen. The man's expression went from attentive listening to utter astonishment, and finally to such alarm that he had to pull out a pen and paper to take notes. "So if you do this with that, it makes this?" With Kojim's arrogant guidance, Daleen exclaimed in awe, "Whoa, where did you get this kind of information?" Crass gave a vague reply, "It's a secret formula from House Vanham." Daleen was once again amazed, as expected of House Vanham. Then he worriedly said, "I'd love to try it, but the problem is getting the ingredients. I can't even get my hands on the thermo-snow mushroom. Or the golden dragon herb. First, the thermo-snow mushroom only grows on Mount Haydenhat, but the mountain is steep and heavily eroded, making it nearly impossible to find." Crass had already considered this. He immediately replied, "I'll ask my fiancée. It's her family's territory, after all." "Next," Deline pointed out, "then that just leaves the golden dragon herb. I heard it's a mythical herb that only grows near a golden dragon's lair in the remote regions of the Empire. You might be able to buy it on the black market, but if the Empire catches wind of it, it'll be big trouble." Crass thought for a moment, then replied, "If there's no other way, I'll have to track down a black market dealer." At this point, Deline suggested, "Let me show you a better way." Crass was surprised. "Another way?" Deline explained, "In the Afania Empire, there's a martial arts tournament for teenagers under 15. You just have to take first place there. The prize is the golden dragon herb, so good idea, right?" After hearing this, Crass immediately facepalmed and replied, "Have you forgotten? I'm from House Vanham. The Empire is likely using the tournament to gain a political advantage over the Academy. If someone from House Vanham participates, everything will become a complete mess." As for that, Deline had, of course, already thought it through. He took out a very suspicious-looking potion and said, "Of course I have a plan, sweetie. Just leave it to this genius." Hehehe. Holding this potion in his hand, Crass was a bit skeptical. "What is this? Why is it so clear? Am I supposed to drink this?" And as soon as Crass finished drinking it, his body began to react violently. And finally, ta-da! Crass had officially become a girl. He couldn't believe his eyes and exclaimed, "What the hell is this?" Dahlia quickly explained, "Anyone can participate in that tournament, as long as your identity isn't revealed, right? You just have to participate as a girl, isn't that right?" However, there was no way he would agree to something like that. Crass roared, "Stop it! Change me back right now!" This scene left Jim, who was standing nearby, speechless. Having lost all patience, Crass immediately erupted with killing intent, unleashing his power. "Threatening me? Are you seriously messing with me?" Faced with this pressure, Dahlia could only stammer through her tears, I'm sorry."